Welcome to Hannity. Busy night tonight. We are tracking several big breaking stories, including new information on the FISA abuse report, fallout surrounding another massive lie from, the president calls her Pocahontas Elizabeth Warren, as she's now almost as bad at lying as your corrupt media mob and even the congenital liar, the corrupt compromise Adam Schiff. I'm going to tell you all about a new investigation also into creepy, sleepy quid pro quo Joe and a lot of details. But first, in tonight's monologue, we start with a closer look at the mainstream media mob, and they are a mob, and their allies in the Democratic Party. Because over the past week, we have witnessed more of the same. Madness now consumes pretty much 99% of media in this country. Now, to be a Democrat or part of the mob, there's no objective truth in your rage Trump every second of everyday world. You have to be a member, you have to have zero intellectual honesty, selective moral outrage only, no common sense, no reason, and breathtaking hypocrisy. Now, the mob's nonstop coverage of the congenital liar, Schiff, and his impeachment charade, it wasn't just maddening. It was also full of lies and outright propaganda, misinformation. They spent an entire week digging for evidence that doesn't just exist and predictably, breathlessly, hyping up testimony filled with, conflicting, confusing statements, almost all of it on hearsay, conjecture, and what are people's opinions about a transcript? We don't need their interpretation because we actually get to read it ourselves and decide for ourselves. None of it would be admissible or ever count in evidence in a real court of law. Here is a small sample of how sick, ugly, twisted, and despicable they really are. Take a look.
Trump allegedly abused his power for private gain by pressuring Ukraine.
Abuse of office for Trump's personal gain at the expense of us.
He used the security and the international relationships that we are required to have for the security of our country as a bargaining chip for his own personal gain.
President Trump extorts a partner who's under duress for his personal political benefit.
We're talking about here is a bribery extortion scheme. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, extortion is extortion and bribery is bribery.
You're talking about Joe. Now somehow at the very same time, these very same people, follow me here, they have literally bifurcated, cut in half their brain. They have to literally shut off one half of their brain and downplay video evidence of the real corruption that they're acting so outraged about, that in this case has incontrovertible, overwhelming evidence. In other words, there really was a quid pro quo, but it was with Joe 30330, shaking down the country of Ukraine and bragging about it. Now, you're not getting $1 billion unless you fire the prosecutor who's investigating my zero experience son. Wow. You're not getting the $1 billion unless you fire that guy because you're investigating him. He has no experience, and he's making millions and millions of dollars. Now, stop for a second. How can the same people all last week in the mob and the media, how can the same people in the news industry, they're journalists, be so outraged at President Trump for doing nothing? Zip. Yet totally, completely ignore the biggest slam dunk case of what they say that they are so outraged about. You have to ignore the indisputable fact that Hunter Biden, he was making millions and millions of dollars serving on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian oil and gas company. You have to ignore the fact that Hunter had zero experience in oil, gas, energy, or Ukraine. You'd have to ignore the fact that Hunter Biden was hired just weeks after his father was appointed to lead the White House policy in Ukraine. You have to ignore the fact that Vice President Joe Biden leveraged $1 billion tax dollars, and bragging about it, to force out a Ukrainian prosecutor, the same one investigating his son. That is all. None of that is in dispute. But the mob and the media said this is this is only a conspiracy theory. Nobody has ever really proven it. Nobody's investigated it. We are, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. Take a look.
Mr. Vice President, President Trump has falsely accused your son of doing something wrong while serving on a company board in Ukraine. I want to point out there's no evidence of wrongdoing by either one of you.
There's no proof whatsoever that Joe Biden did anything wrong or that Hunter Biden did anything wrong.
Trump's claims about wrongdoing here are unsubstantiated. We have looked. Lots of outlets have looked.
Trump is making a wholly unsubstantiated claim when he alleges corruption by the Bidens. There is no evidence of any wrongdoing. In reality, Joe Biden was the one working to purge corruption from Ukraine.
An utterly baseless theory.
Vis-a-vis Joe Biden. There's no evidence, nor has there ever been any evidence, that he was doing anything but trying to get the Ukraine government to crack down on corruption.
Leave Joe alone. Just leave him alone. The Burisma, the Biden probe, it's a bunch of BS.
Now, that's how despicable and corrupt the Democrats and the mob are. How is it? No evidence. We've all looked. If you looked and you'll hear Joe bragging, you're not getting the billion. He's leveraging the money. And if you look closer, watch Hunter Biden on GMA. What did he do? He said, no, I have no experience. Well, I once was on a board at Amtrak. Oh, there's a ton of experience. This level of groupthink is not only despicable, what you just watched is dangerous. They're losing it. Now, I say mob in the media for a reason. They are a mob with a mob mentality and a mob mindset. They don't care about their breathtaking hypocrisy, obviously. Their hatred of Trump, well, that is superior to everything else. They don't care about the lies that they're telling, the propaganda they're spreading, the conspiracy theories they're spinning, the hoaxes that they continue to perpetrate, one right after another, after another, after another. Because they're in their little bubble, little echo chamber. There's a whole rest of the country that doesn't live in D.C., New York, L.A., and San Francisco. And their bubble is filled with every second, minute, hour of every 24-hour day. Trump rage, psychosis, venom. And that has resulted in this endless stream of fake hysteria, lying, propaganda, misinformation, smearing, slander, distortion, and everything in between. They have been crying wolf for 3 long years. And by the way, they've not done a thing for you. We, the American people, not one thing have these people done, except bring us to the brink of impeachment. Wow. Take a look.
I have not seen anything like this since October 20th, 1973, when President Nixon fired Archibald Cox.
Richard Nixon.
Watergate. Echoes of Watergate.
A giant step toward impeachment. Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment implications are now in the air.
The president will be removed from office.
Bombshell.
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 Bombshell. Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell stories dropping seemingly every day.
He will resign the presidency.
It's warming to the idea of his resignation.
You should resign.
Resign.
The president sees the walls closing in and is lashing out.
He feels the walls closing in.
Closing in.
You can feel the thread being pulled. You can feel the clothes starting to come off the emperor. I believe this is the beginning of the end.
Donald Trump's done. He's done. There's no question about that.
Selective moral outrage, and that's what the mob looks like. It's sad, it's sick, it's dangerous. When the facts don't fit their narrative, they just lie. They lied for 3 years about Trump, Russia, the collusion hoax. They lied about the allegations against Justice Kavanaugh. Anyone ever say they're sorry? They lied about Covington High School students like, oh, Nicholas Sandmann. By the way, Nicholas Sandmann, I predict, is going to be one of the wealthiest kids in the country pretty soon. They lied about Ukraine. They're lying about the Bidens. Every single day they lie when they say that they're journalists. They're not journalists. And yet they have the gall, oh, they always want to criticize us. Look at fake news CNN. Look at all their phony reporting. They're actually using, well, this guy wouldn't have a job. He's so bad at TV. This low-rated stenographer of Jeff Zucker, their president. His name is Humpty Dumpty. That's what I call him. He dedicated an entire segment. He doesn't have, I don't think, 1 million viewers on his show, to a sparsely watched Sunday show critiquing our coverage of Schiff's impeachment charade, calling the Ukrainian interference in the 2016 election a conspiracy theory. It's a problem. The Ukrainian court determined otherwise, and maybe you'd want to go and look at what Politico said on January 11, 2017, and read about Alexander Chalupa, the Ukrainian embassy in Washington, and how successful they were at interfering, helping Hillary, and trying to hurt Donald Trump. But then minutes later, they feature a guest suggesting that President Trump is a destructive cult leader using mind control on his supporters. And Humpty, he's just one of many of the monitors taking order from their leader, their fearless leader, fake news chief Jeff Zucker. Their whole purpose of this low-rated, last-place existent so-called news network channel is to, attack the channels that are successful. And if it wasn't so sick, it's actually pretty funny. It's very entertaining to me. In order to deflect from their own constant lying and their own conspiracies and their own hoaxes, well, and of course their anti-Trump bias every second of the day, they just lie. And more, they claim others are guilty of what they do every day, all day. So we've got a real crisis of information in the country. Make no mistake, fake news CNN, Area 51, yes, Roswell, Rachel Maddow's conspiracy television network, MSDNC, and whole channel that tries to duplicate what she does, they have zero fidelity to truth. Zero fidelity to truth and nothing but the truth, to the rule of law, equal justice under the law, equal application of their laws, equal application of standards, Joe and Hunter. That's why it is up to us, I guess. Fine, they'll leave it to us. The #1 show on cable news, thanks to all of you. We will remind them that Ukrainian interference in the 2016 elections actually happened. That's why we will vet quid pro quo Joe and Hunter and the rest of the radical extreme socialist Democratic field. They'll never do it. That's why it'll be up to us to call out, yes, the compromise, the corrupt, congenital liar Schiff and the Schiff show for what it really is. Just another effort to smear President Trump, undo a duly elected president. And by the way, we'll kick it all off with either hearsay or opinion witnesses and a hearsay whistleblower who was communicating apparently with Schiff's office early on. Look at this report. January 2017, Washington Times. This individual might have actually benefited from one of President Obama's final directives. Wow. Doing to the next president that which you didn't want in your administration, giving whistleblowers new protections against the executive branch. This came in the final weeks of the Obama presidency, and as a Washington Times columnist put it, quote, this is in stark contrast to when he entered office in 2009, and Obama waged a war against this community, and his administration prosecuted 9 whistleblowers under the 1917 Espionage Act, more than double that of all other previous administrations combined. But the mob, well, President Trump is bad, and, well, Obama's a saint. Again, it's crystal clear. They have an agenda, zero fidelity to truth, an unwavering allegiance to their own far extreme left-wing socialist agenda.